Well, here we are once again, and this time I think everything should work out quite nicely. The webcam, which I am seeing on this monitor and here, should now be centered on me a bit more. So last time it was like this, and I don't think that worked quite well. So now it is quite normal. And while editing the previous video, I also saw that the music from the game was a bit loud. So I decided I would tone it down like 10 more or whatever the unit is we're dealing with here. 10 volumes. Anyways, let's continue from episode 3 onwards. We are just being told that there is a second dimension that is hidden somewhere inside the forest, and since it's red tea, since it's red text, it needs to be true. I already noted it down in my document. Let's go with 15 then, I guess. What's def? I still don't know what def means. Like, there's no like default. The default is 30, maybe? That's what it means? But you can't use 57, can you? Like, no. So I have no idea what def is. Well, that should work anyways.
それが今話をしていた場所です。
Yes, exactly. That is the place we were just talking about. Yep, the secret mansion where Beatrice was hidden. So, let's try to learn more about it through Ronoe? Ronoe? I just don't know his name, probably. Yes, it's red. Butler, like your hair. Renault used the text to say that Kuvadorians actually existed. Existed. Alright, did it say existed? That's an important there's no proof whatsoever. Huh? The text is just gone. Okay. Whatever. Did that mean the same thing as the red Beato used?
これでも悪魔の端くれでございますので。
I very much like this OST, by the way. It's awesome.
お嬢様には内緒にしてくださいね。
I do wonder, he seems to be plotting against Beatrice. And the way this whole story is set up, I wouldn't be surprised at all if in the end we somehow actually side with her in some regards. And like he turns out to be the actual villain. Or at least somehow involved with the villain, like maybe Burnt Castle for some reason is the antagonist. So I would kinda doubt it. Since I assume she's like a future version of Rika from Higurashi. So I don't know if she would be a villain. If there even is an actual villain. Like, I guess Higurashi had one, yeah. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but even then the villain was kinda redeemable. I mean, they were still punished at the end and constantly treated as a villain, so... It's hard to tell. Beato, who knew I would try to trip her up, had grown extremely cautious when using red. To think that Ronoe could also use the red. However, it was the red of a crafty man. I didn't know how far I could accept it, but anyway, I might be able to get some kind of hint out of it.
このクワドリアンの庭でくつろいでるベアトとさっきのじい様との会話は真実なのか?
It seems that way, yes. Oh wait, I'm way too big, I realize now. Let me get a bit smaller at least. Also, Renault is just way too much inside the camera. Like, this may be fine. I think this should be fine. Yeah. You can still clearly see me. Yeah, like this. And he was completely covered by me. I'm Renault now. Oh, there's two of me! What have I done? There's so many. Is there another one? No. There's just two here. Let's have a conversation. Okay. Oh, Oops. Well, it just... I don't want to remove one of them in case it just removes the other as well, so we'll just have 2 cameras now. Okay. Sorry, Battle, I completely missed what you were saying at the end. The conversation you had with Campfire were the truth, yeah. I assume so.
はい。真実です。
Yeah.
かつて、実際にこの場所で、お二人はこのような会話をなされました。
Okay. So, second mansion exists. The conversation is similar to that. So, the pair actually had a conversation like that in this place. Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it, though. They had a conversation like that in this place. He didn't say the pair had this conversation in this place. Which, in my opinion, would mean that the conversation we are hearing right now is 90% what actually they were talking about. But we are maybe missing or hearing some pieces in a different light, or maybe we are missing some lines. So it's just mostly the same.
助かるぜ。
Should you thank him? I'm
さ
not
らに
sure.
赤で頼む。あいつ、ホムンクルスから生まれたなんて言いやがったが、
Yeah.
そんな非科学的な魔法的存在、実在するのか？
その問いかけにはお答えできません。理由は、ステイルメイトになるからでございます。
ステイルメイト？なんだそりゃ。
I'm kind of curious about that too, because if Homunculi do not exist, then it would be a lie by Beatrice, so wouldn't it be more like a win for us?
チェスの用語で、千日手のパーペチュアルと同様に、
I know what a stem it is.
それ以上のゲーム進行が不可能になる宣言です。
Yeah.
これは、千日手とは正反対で、指し手がなくなる、ある種の手詰まりの状態を指します。
Yeah, it's just mostly the case when the king has to move but can't move because he would put himself in a checkmate. In a check.
パーペチュアルに同じで、チェスではこれを引き分けにしております。
Exactly.
ただし、お嬢様とバトラ様のゲームでは、引き分けがですので、ステイルメイトになる質問には、赤でお答えすることができないのです。
But how would it bring upon a stalemate? That part I actually have no idea about. How does that work? Okay.
よくわからねえこと言って煙に巻いてるが。
I mean that too, probably.
つまり、ホモンクルスなんて魔法的存在が実在するって、赤で言えないからごまかしてるだけなんだろ？
That would be one interpretation of this.
仮に私が赤で魔女は実在すると言ったら、バトラ様はどういたしますか？
Oh, he would obviously... Okay, I see now. But if he says a witch exists, or if he confirms through red text that a magical thing is actually the truth, then this would automatically mean that Battler has to assume now that red text isn't actually the truth, and thus all red text loses its meaning, and we are back to the issue from before.
それを信じるか信じないかで、俺たちは大喧嘩してるんじゃねえかよ。それを言われちまったら身も蓋もないぜ。ゲームオーバーだ。
Would it?
魔女は存在すると赤で申し上げたなら、しかしバトラ様はその理由が示されない以上、それを受け入れないでしょう。
Yeah.
しかし赤で語られる以上、反論の余地もなく証拠も示されない。
Yeah.
この場合、敗北を認められないにもかかわらず、反論の手がなく手詰まりとなってしまいます。
Okay, fair.
チェックメイトされていないにもかかわらず、次なる指し手が存在しない。バトラ様が次の一手を打てない以上、お嬢様に手番が回ってくることはなく、ゲームはそこで 永遠に止まってしまう。
True.
その結果、お嬢様があなたを屈服させることもできない。
And she wants him to give up on his own terms.
これが手詰まりの状態です。それを回避するため、このような形になるご質問には赤でお答えすることができないのです。
Makes sense.
早い話が、身も蓋もない質問は禁止だと。そう言いたいわけだ。まあ、そりゃそうだよな。
Sorry. I need to get, how to say, attuned to when to actually progress and when not. I'm not always clear on when they stop talking or not.
赤で魔女は実在するって言われちまったら、俺は花からお手上げだぜ。
ご理解いただけて助かります。他の形の質問でしたらご協力できるかと思いますよ。
Okay.
奴がはぐらかした副賞要求には答えられるか。この島の人数だ。
お嬢様が保留されている副賞要求にも
Yeah, obviously.
もちろん答えられませんよ。
Otherwise, you would go directly against Beatrice, and you're only trying to sneakily undermine her and not openly go against her.
お嬢様の家具でございますので、出過ぎた真似はできかねます。
Yes. Ronoe made an exaggerated gesture, trying to act like a loyal retainer. This guy's so shameless. Yeah.
一瞬でも使えるやつと思ったのによ。諦めて他の質問を探すか。そうだ。大事なことを確認するのを忘れてた。これはベアとの思い出話なんだろ？
Yeah.
いつの話なんだ？
That's also a good question. When did it take place?
まさか現在ってことはないだろ。
The red lines were invisible the entire time. Hope it was just an OBS thing. Sorry. This is a story about Mary's marriage. It couldn't be happening right now, right? Yeah.
はい。ここは1967年の世界。
Okay, 1967. Time of conversation. Could we also get the info of how old the body Beatrice was inhabiting was at that age? I think that's 20 years ago, right? What is it, 1987 right now? Or 1986? 1 sec. We have currently... I don't find it. Damn it. Ah, here. 1987. So yes, exactly 20 years ago. Good to know.
19年前の世界でございます。
Okay, 19 years. Yeah, but also works. Let's try rearranging the story again. I wonder if it couldn't be something like this. Grandfather fell in unrequited love with a person called Beatrice. Then he confined her in this hidden mansion and continued to court her. But she was stubborn and didn't give in. Eventually, she grew pessimistic about being able to escape from here, and probably committed suicide. Okay. And then, her soul was put in a homunculus and... No. If I accept that, it's the same as accepting the witch. Yes. Exactly. I can interpret that part like this. She probably had a posthumous daughter. Would also be an option. Grandfather must have believed that her soul had been placed in a new physical body, and might have thought that the child was the reincarnation of Beatrice. Yes. That means at least 19 years ago, Beato existed on this island as the 19th person. Yeah, what now? What do we do with that? A lot can happen in 19 years.
混乱してきたぜ。
Understandable.
いずれにせよ、憶測の域を出ない。
Yeah.
確実に赤で言えることは、1967年のロッケン島の隠し屋敷に人間としてのベアトリーチェが存在した。
Yes.
それだけだ。
その通りでございます。1967年のロッケン島の隠し屋敷に人間としてのベアトリーチェ様が存在した。
Okay, interesting.
ああ、サンキュー。助かるぜ。
おめでとうございます。 これでバトラ様の19人目の駒は、その存在がはっきりしました。
Well, no, he hasn't. Because an active person, like, he could have died at any time.
バトラ様が熱望された18人以外に罪をなすりつけられる19人目のいかなる罪をもなすりつけることのでき
Once again, sorry.
る生贄の羊。
Yeah.
それがお嬢様とは実に愉快。
She was such an ass. Renoir laughed indiscreetly. Somehow I didn't like how he put that, so I didn't feel like laughing along with him.
そうだ。ローザおばさんは言った。
Yeah.
ベアトリーチェは死んだ。
Exactly.
私が殺した？どういう意味なんだ？
それは私の口から語るよりも、実際に顛末をご覧になった方が早いでしょう。
Yes, please.
少々時計を進めましょう。
Yes. Renoir pulled a stylish pocket watch from his pocket and touched the watch stem. As soon as he did, I saw gold butterflies gather behind his back and take the form of a person. Rosa? Was it Berto? I quickly realized it was someone else. No, it's Lucifer, right? It was her, that older sister of the Seven Stakes, who loved tormenting me more than her 3 meals a day. If I don't consider myself lucky to see that sexy ass, I won't be able to keep up with the torture game. Ooh, I like that sprite. I get what you mean now by the PS3 sprites are better. Like, the different facial expressions have a lot more pow, like more energy to them. They're more... They're just better.
まだこちらにおられましたか。
Yeah.
ベアトリーチェ様が至急お呼びです。
Oh, okay.
はて、地球のどのようなご用やら、少々バトラ様とのおしゃべりが過ぎたようですね。それではバトラ様、私めはこれで失礼させていただきます。どうか引き続きお嬢様とのゲームをお楽しみください。
We will, thank you.
へいへい。せいぜい楽しむぜ。
It seems to be a bit more enthusiastic than battlers right now.
あんたはベアトより話が弾むからな。
Fair.
赤も気前よく使ってくれるしよ。
Is he?
ぜひまたおしゃべりに来いよな。
バトラ様。
Butler. Okay, Butler.
私めもこう見えてもお嬢様の家具。
It's Butler, not Battler. Okay.
お嬢様が望まぬことはできませんよ。私が語った赤は本来ならお嬢様が自らの口で語るべきもの。
Okay.
へそを曲げてしまわれたお嬢様に代わって赤き真実を披露したに過ぎません。
I don't trust him. I don't see that. There's something weird
や
about
っぱ
him.
俺へそを曲げてたよな。
No, definitely. What an ass. You are both made for each other. Seeing me and Renoir incomprehensibly hitting it off, that steak Nechan cocked her head curiously.
ロノウェ様、ベアトリーチェ様をお待たせしております。お急ぎを。
You're small enough to fit underneath my face cam. Oh, how cute. Pet, pet, pet.
ええ、直ちに参ります。それではバトラ様、後ほど。ようやく仲良くなれてきましたね。
Yes, yeah.
やはり良い友人になれる気がします。
I don't trust you.
ベアトの陰口仲間ってことならな。
ロノウェ様。
はいはい。それでは失礼いたします。
Maybe she didn't like seeing him act so friendly with me, or maybe she really had been told to hurry. When the steak Nechan let out a thunderous cry, Renoir laughed frivolously and disappeared, as if running away. Oh, now I talk to you?
煉獄の七杭が長女のこの私が この程度の用事で呼びつけられるなんて。
I mean, who else? The goats? They can't talk, right?
ベアトリーチェ様もこの程度なら他の暇そうな妹たちに言いつければいいのに。
何をカリカリしてんだよ姉ちゃん。腹減ってんならクッキーでも食えよ。最後の一枚をくれてやるぜ。
ふん、気が利くじゃない。なら
Like that.
一ついただこうかしら。
I casually pushed the snack plate with the last remaining cookie over to her.
ありがとう。
Did she just take off our hand or something? As though coming as a period at the end of the sentence, a sharp sound pierced the table. The nails of 3 of her fingers extended, grew sharp, and pierced the space between my fingers on the hand that was pushing the plate, missing them by a hair's breadth. Okay. It had happened in an instant, so for a while I didn't even realize that her fingernails had grown. The tips of those sharp nails were like blades with a red manicure. The spaces between the bases of my fingers hurt sharply. Those razor-like blades had been plunged into the table as a hair's breadth away from the back of my hand and my fingers. Because of those 3 blades, I was unable to even let my careless right hand tremble, and by now, all I could do was let a bead of cold sweat drip down.
姉ちゃん、そろそろ爪を切った方がいいぜ。
ルシファーよ。
Yeah.
それが誇り高き私の名。ベアトリーチェ様にお仕えする名誉ある家具。煉獄の七杭が長女。
It's actually quite interesting that, as far as it seems, Lucifer and in general the 7 Lords of Hell, you know, the stakes of purgatory, are lower ranked, or at least feels like they are lower ranked than the 72 demons of Goetia. Or was it David? I'm too confused from Fate.
他の面汚しな愚昧どもとはわけが違うの。それに見合った敬意を示さないと後悔することになるわよ。
どう後悔するんだか。俺には見当もつかねえぜ。
Yeah, fair.
バカな子ね。そんなに遊んでほしいの？そんなに忘れられないの？私の悔いを思いっきり奥の奥までねじ込んでたっぷりえぐって楽しませてあげるわよ。
くそったれ。いつか押し倒して同じセリフ言ってやるぜ。
あらそう？楽しみにしてるわね。
They certainly enjoy torturing him a lot. But I do wonder if this will actually come to be in this game. Ow. Not nice. I hate this laugh. I hate this laugh so much. Oh, we're back here. So Rosa, want to tell us something? Rosa eventually regained her calm. The man wanted to hurry her into talking faster, but Curie intervened. If something like that really had happened, then it would have been a terrible experience that Rosa wouldn't want to remember. After taking several deep breaths with her hand over her chest, it seems that she had more or less resolved herself to talk. Yes, please tell us. What's the story behind the murder?
あれはいくつの時だったのかしら。多分中学生か。よく覚えてない。
Middle school means around 15? 15, I assume? So, if that was... I mean, it has to have been less than 20 years ago, right? That would put Rosa at... a bit above 30, maybe? That could work.
そのくらいの頃だったと思うわ。
ってことは、だいたい20年くらい前ってとこか。
Yeah, exactly.
あの頃の私はあまり成績が良くなくて、いつもお母様に怒られてばかりだった。
I think some of the children know that.
私なりに努力していたつもりだったんだけど、お母様の期待には全然応えられなくて。
母上はローザにも随分厳しかったな。当時は同情していたよ。
陰口ばっかだったくせによく言うわね。
Yeah, you were all pieces of shit.
予算かエヴァ。それでローザさんはどこでベアトリーチェに会ったんや。
秀吉さん、今はせかしてはダメよ。
Yeah, but I want to hear
いい
it.
のよ、ローザさん。楽に話して。
ありがとう。あれはお母様に特にひどく叱られた日よ。
Okay. Do we get to see the mom by now? Even though my tutor had promised to keep it a secret, apparently they told Mother all about how I had complained. Mother scolded me brutally, saying my name was a disgrace to the Ushiromiya family. Of course, I was doing the best I could, but I had none of Kraus Nisan's dignity. I couldn't get excellent grades like Eva Nisan, and I had no leadership abilities like Rudolf Nisan. Never stood out, didn't particularly excel at anything, and I found myself asking why I had even been born into the Ushiromiya family. I began to question more and more why I had even been born at all. This is what happened on the day I experienced my mind going blank for the first time. For the first time in my life, I realized that in addition to facing or surrendering to my problems, I had the third choice of running away. So I say, run away. There was no way I could have left Rokkenjima and gone somewhere else. Hard to escape an island. But anyway, I wanted to run away from the mansion and my own self at the time. It's a bit surprising, but it's really nice to get even more Rosa backstory even after her episode, especially because the episode itself didn't give us that much besides how much she hated her siblings and how awful her upbringing was and that she was always envious of them and it's imitating them all the time. So seeing their pretty much all the children's childhood now it's quite cool. In a way, it was like a kid running away from home, or maybe a passive sort of suicide. Are we making these parallels quite obvious yet? Are we?
いなくなりたかったの。あるいはいなくなることによって親を心配させたいという子供なりの反抗だったのかも。私は森の遥か奥に行けば後宮の家から逃れられる。あるいは迷子になって心配させることで仕返しができると子供ながらに思ったの。
それで行ってはいけないと言われていた森に？
ええ、浜辺へ出てから海に沿うように特に理由があったわけじゃないけれど、島をぐるりと回ればその反対側には誰も知らない場所があって私だけの隠れ家になるような気がしたの。
浜辺からぐるっとってのは無理だな。途中で崖になっちまうだろう。あんなとこ通れるわけがねえぜ。
もちろんよ。だから通れる方へ通れる方へ、とにかく奥へ奥へ進んだわ。道なんかないひどい森だったけど、あの時の私にはそれが心地よかったの。
Should we create a map of the island soon? I mean, it seems not necessary right now, but maybe in the future.
それほどの険しい森を抜けたなら、その分後宮家から逃れられるって。
情けないわね。成績で叱られたならその分努力すればいいのに。
Such an Ava answer.
それを言ってはいかんね。
Oh, shut up.
その代わりローザにはデザイナーとしての才能があったじゃないか。
Literally speaking, he was covering for Rosa, but everyone knew that Rosa's company hadn't company hadn't been profitable.
よせよ。今は嫌味を言ってる場合じゃねえぜ。
That's coming from you is ironic.
偶然たどり着いちまったんだな。ベアトリーチェの隠し屋敷に。
That's what I assume at least. Rosa nodded
どの
weakly.
くらい歩いたんや。地図で場所が示せるんか。夏さん、この島の地図はあるかいな。
いえ、今ここにはありませんが。
無理よ。適当に歩いただけだもの。
Yeah, okay.
地図を見せられたってわからないわ。それにあれから20年も経ってる。
Very fair. I sometimes hardly remember where I walked 3 weeks ago.
多分森へ行っても二度とたどり着けないわ。
Several people let out eject the sighs. But I mean, now you know that there is something on this island, so you could just start go looking. It was vividly clear that in their haste they had sought some hint related to the witch's epitaph, or maybe even the gold itself might be resting there.
ロッケン島はこの屋敷の周りが整地されているだけに過ぎねえ。他は完全に未開で、前頭測量は相当の手間がかかるだろうな。
Yeah, also Kraus did a scan of the entire island, right? Like he got people to map it all out for his resort, so how come he didn't find this secret mansion?
でも確かに存在すると分かっただけでも収穫よ。お金はかかるだろうけど、例えば航空写真の会社に調査を頼むとか、このお屋敷を建設した業者に当時のことを聞くとか、調べる方法はあるかもしれないわね。そうね。あるかないかもわからないものを探すよりは、まだ方法があるはずよ。
早速調べる価値があるだろう。
Wait, shouldn't you know more? Like, what kind of search
そ
did
の
you
調
do?
査は兄弟合同でやるわよ。兄さん一人ではさせないわ。
Don't act so nice, Ava. We know it's just your own good you're out for. It wasn't yet certain that the gold was hidden in that secret mansion, but the sparks seemed to have started flying between Kraus and Ava already.
兄貴たち、今ローザ、続きを話してくれ。
How did you kill Berto? Let me just... Oh, how cute. Blindly, randomly, I kept running on and on. Suddenly, I came across something I thought was an animal trail. I was very tired and had no idea how far I had walked. So at that time, I naturally took the easiest path. How big is that island? Must be ginormous. As I did, suddenly, right before my eyes, a very, very tall fence appeared. It was a fence wonderfully adorned in a Gothic style. For an instant, I thought I had gotten turned around and returned to the original mansion. Of course, there were fences around the mansion to stop us from entering the forest, but this fence was decorated differently, and moreover, it was very tall. It probably reached a full 2 stories up. It was covered with ivy and created a mysterious, solemn atmosphere. At the time, I believed in the legend of the witch of the forest, Beatrice. I'd been told that she was frightening, but some of the servants told me that she would sometimes help you if you respected her. Since I had little confidence in those days, I believed that only way I could be saved was by receiving her help. Okay. That's why I thought what I did. I believed that this was the fence of the mansion belonging to Beatrice, the witch of the forest. I thought that if I could meet Beatrice, she would definitely save me. So I decided to try going in. But the fence was very, very tall, and it didn't look like I would be able to go over it. So I chose to walk around it. I thought that if I did, I would eventually reach a gate. But it wasn't that easy. The fence had an incredible length to match its incredible height, No matter how far I went, I didn't reach a corner. It might have encircled a massive area, or maybe I just had the impression because my child legs made it difficult to walk in the forest. Anyway, I couldn't find a gate for a while, and I started to feel sad as though the witch had rejected me. Oh. Poor little Ava. Rosa. As I did, I eventually came upon a large tree, whose twisted root had bent the fence. It might get my clothes dirty, but if I crawled, it looked like I would be able to sneak in.
そこが隠し屋敷だったの？
あれが私たちの言う隠し屋敷なのかはわからない。でも少なくとも私たちの知る場所ではなかったわ。
It wasn't as though I came out into a garden as soon as I passed the fence. I had to continue through a lot more uncultivated forest after that. Wow, it's bright. Ah, here we are. As I did, the forest suddenly opened up. What appeared there was an unbelievably fantastical scene. To think that on Rokkenjima, where I thought only we lived, there could be such a wonderful mansion hidden away. A beautiful flower garden spanned the front of the mansion. It was a flower garden of a completely different design from the rose garden we know so well, and it was very lovely. Of course, the mansion was also wonderful. It was a couple sizes smaller than ours, but it was still elegant and adorable at the same time. Then I saw her figure. I saw her sitting in a garden chair, positioned to give a view of the flower garden, wearing an elegant dress. It was that black dress embroidered in gold that we would later know from that portrait. Hi, Berto. I hadn't seen an elegant dress like that except in fairy tales and on the stage of musicals. For a person to be wearing it as her normal clothes, that in itself seemed quite fantastical. That mysterious scene was enough to make me lose my sense of reality. If someone had told me that this was a dream, I might have nodded obediently and waited to wake up in my bed. I had forgotten to hide myself in my shock, so she eventually spotted me. Huh. At first, her expression was quite listless. I mean, she was probably very surprised to see someone for the first time outside of Kinzo, right? Well, maybe one of the servants there. I mean, she didn't see anyone at all her entire life while living there. But when she noticed me, her eyes opened very wide. It was only natural, considering that a guest she didn't know had suddenly appeared. I lowered my head automatically, planning to greet her and apologize for entering without permission.
そなたは誰か新しい庭師なのか?
Okay, so there are servants in this mansion. I'm still betting my money that one of them is Runoi and the others are the seven stakes somehow. Those were the first words she said to me. I grew slightly calmer. Because I realized that we could talk to each other. Because I hadn't been turned into a frog just by meeting her eyes. Like a terrifying witch in a fairy tale. Cute. I mean, once again, we are now contrasting her also a bit with Maria, right? Like, Maria also met Beatrice in her youth and then was formed by her. Like, she wants to be a witch because of her. And similarly, Rosa's life is formed by her experience now she had with Beatrice. Aside, obviously, from how she had to endure a lot of horrible stuff in her family home.
ごめんなさい。勝手にお庭に立ち入ってすみません。
そなたは誰か?
She sounds so nice. It's such a stark contrast to the usual Berto.
名乗るがよい。
後宮ローザと言います。
Rosa.
後宮。ほう、金蔵の一族の人間なのか?
Yes.
はい、金蔵の娘です。こんにちは。
I was a little surprised. After all, father was a great man, feared by everyone, and yet she had spoken of him without using honorifics. So I was immediately terrified of her. Oh, that's I don't know if this is sad or like cute, because she immediately is terrified just because someone doesn't respect Kinzo. Like, this not only shows her fear of the witch, obviously, but also how much she respects and is terrified of her own father. Like, she sees him on such a high podium that anyone who speaks with him or about him casually must automatically be such a great and terrifying and big person. After all, if she could refer to... Yes, thank you, yes, exactly. If she could refer to my fearsome father that way, she must be a witch with incredible power. After staring at me curiously, she beckoned me to come over. Frightened as I was, I obeyed. After all, I thought she might really turn me into a frog. The closer I got, the stronger that fear became. After all, as I keep saying over and over, that woman and her dress, and the flower garden and the mansion, the whole picture was so fantastical and beautiful that it seemed separate from reality. It probably wouldn't have surprised me at all to learn that she really was a witch. And I really was lucky. She hadn't turned me into a frog. As I awkwardly stood there, stock still, she motioned to an open chair and urged me to sit down. Ah, we have a CG, the first CG ever. That's a very cute one. Nice.
初めて訪れた者を庭へ招き、語らうのがわらわの唯一の楽しみよ。
Oh.
他に何の楽しみもないがな。
Oh. Didn't he at least leave books or something with you? As she said this, she let an unhappy smile show for just an instant. Because I was full of a strange mix of tension and excitement, I rudely asked her a question all of a sudden.
森の魔女。ベアトリーチェですか？
いかにも。わらわがベアトリーチェである。
It's quite interesting how they pronounce the name Beatrice.
やはり。
I will say Beatrice because it just sounds better to me in my opinion, but it's quite interesting to see the Japanese pronunciation of English names. Like, would Rudolph be like Rudolphe or something like that?
ベアトリーチェは実在したんだ。
Yes.
その姿はまさに肖像画の。
From what we just remembered, yes.
ええ、まさにあの肖像画の通りよ。
One to one.
お父さんの想像の中の魔女じゃ。
That was a lot longer than the word so.
なかったんやな。
It's pretty much the opposite of it. She wasn't just a witch from father's imagination, yeah.
それで、あなたは彼女と何を話したの？
彼女はお茶を入れながら私のことをいろいろと聞いたわ。まず森を抜けてやってきたことを驚かれた。彼女は柵の外には危険な狼がたくさんいると信じていたみたいだった。
So she pretty much had a similar story to everyone in the vengeance, just reversed.
だから私が森を抜けてたどり着いたと言ったらとても驚いていたわ。どうやって狼から逃れたのか、ビスケットを渡して許してもらったのか、それとも魔法の街灯をかぶってなんて感じのことを言ってたっけ。
She really is innocent.
そりゃ確かに魔女っぽいわな。
Yeah, or a child who has no idea about the actual world.
面白いお人や。
あなた黙って。ずいぶん昔だけど、お父様は森には狼が住んでいるから近寄ってはならないって
Okay, they were told that
私
as
たち
well.
を脅さなかった？
ああ、そんなこともあったな。バカらしいね。日本の狼はとっくの昔に絶滅しているというのに。
Oh, they did. Is that actually true? Did wolves in Japan go extinct because of some reason?
まさに子供騙しだな。記憶にねえな。そんな話。親父に聞かされたっけ？森には魔女だろ？
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought as well.
狼なんて話聞いたことないぜ。
あんたがまだ小学校だった頃よ。覚えてない？そしたらあんた、むしろ狼を撫でてみたいなんて言い出すもんだから。
Aww.
お父様はすぐに狼の話を引っ込めて魔女の話に切り替えたのよ。
Okay, that's very cute.
もうその嘘っぽいことと言ったら。
You, know, you sound more like a witch than any other person here. Okay, maybe you too.
当時のルドルフには狼よりも魔女の話の方がてきめんだったね。よく覚えているよ。
I'm surprised she didn't just go on the usual, oh well, can I have a romance with the witch or something like that. Yes, she is. She's sexy. I mean, she's Butler's dad. It would be a very normal response for him.
私の背中にしがみついた夜があったことを覚えているかね。
ルドルフさんにもそんな可愛らしい時代があったのね。
Yeah.
うるせえな。
Oh.
子供の頃の話だぜ。
まあとにかくベアトリーチェを閉じ込めていたのがお父さんなら、同じ狼の話をするのは道理ね。彼にとってロッケン島の広大な森は後ろ宮家と愛人の屋敷という相入れない二つの異世界を分断する越えてはならない壁だったのだから。
Yeah, exactly.
柵の高さを考えると、どうやら親父殿は庭ごと丸々を座敷牢にしたようだな。さながら二つの世界を分ける国境も同然だったのだろ
う。Yeah.
狼はともかく野犬の類でもいたのではありませんか？
It reminds me of another story, but I can't remember if it's like with the wall in between the two worlds. Like over the garden wall or something like that? Maybe a bit like that? Also, could there actually be the wolf? Like, we know what the goat head people, but there can't be that many people here, right? So, if we assume them to be somehow real, or maybe like an illusion in some sort, like they are actually real things, but appear like those goats, could that be just wolves controlled by Berto or something?
そのための策だったかもしれません。
Yeah, sure, I guess.
ロッケン島に狼も野犬もいないわ。その策は兄さんやキリエさんの言うように。
Becomes, I mean, it was apparent episode 1 already, but she worships Kinso. Like, she's utterly devoted to him.
ベアトリーチェと私たちの間の国境だったんでしょうね。
Yeah.
しかし、狼の話を素直に信じるなんて、なんちゅうか、純朴やな。
Yep.
わしの想像していた魔女とは随分違う感じやで。
そうね、それは私も感じたわ。とても尊大で、確かに魔女のイメージ通りの人だったんだけど、どこかとても子供っぽくて。
Exactly. She grew up completely isolated from the rest of the world, so she probably had no idea about how things actually are.
なんていうのか、素直すぎるというか、
Yeah.
世間知らずな印象を受けたわ。
Exactly.
例えるなら、本当におとぎの国の人みたいというか、
Oh.
本当に不思議な人だったわ。
それからどうしたんだ。親父の話とかは出たのか。
ええ、何日かに一度。約束されている日もあれば、突然の日もあったそうだけど、ふらりとお父様が訪れては、一緒にお茶を飲んだり、散歩したりしたんですって。
Yeah, exactly.
私が訪れたその日は、たまたま彼女一人だったと言っていたわ。
Lucky.
なるほどな。まさに愛人といったところだ。やれやれ。いくつ年下か知らんが、親父殿もやるね。
I wouldn't say good for him, I would say screw him.
いかがわしい意味での交流はなかったと確信しています。
She's so devoted.
バカね。 男と女の多さに色気がないはずないじゃない。
I really get why she has the lust. Like, she's so...
それでどうしたの？それから何の話を？
私の自己紹介をしたので、逆に彼女のことを質問したわ。そうしたら、急に雰囲気が落ち込んでしまったの。
Because she doesn't know who she
なんて
is.
いうのか、とても気だるそうな、寂しそうな。
Yeah.
私が初めて彼女の顔を見た時に浮かべていたのと同じ
まあ、秘密の愛人だからな。
I hate how I can't tell when they actually speak talking sometimes.
好き勝手に歩かれて、お袋に見つかっちまったらことだ。きっと軟禁に近い状態だったろう。
Exactly.
綺麗なドレスに、綺麗な屋敷や庭があっても、さぞや窮屈な思いをしてたんだろうぜ。そりゃ苦労もあったろうさ。それで
彼女はきっと何か悩みがあった。それを私に話したところで、私もとても悲しかったのを覚えてる。私と一緒にいることさえ忘れてしまったかのようで。
I would have thought she would be way more excited to have some new person to talk to. But maybe, I guess, I mean, Rosa was just a little child at the time, right? Like, what could she tell her?
遠
What could
く
she
を
do
ぼ
for
んや
her?
り見ながら、ずっと無言でいたわ。私はきっと出現してしまったに違いないと思ったんだけど。
Maybe she just realized that Kinso is lying to her and what was actually out there. And that pretty much broke her worldview at the time.
謝罪の言葉すらも口にしていいような雰囲気じゃなくて。だから私も、彼女が私と一緒にいることを思い出してくれるまで、ずっと黙ってた。
And then she muttered unexpectedly.
柵の向こうには本当に狼などおらぬのか？
え？はい。狼なんて動物園でも見たことないです。
動物園とは何か？
She wouldn't know.
いろんな動物が飼われているところです。象とかキリンとかパンダとか珍しい動物がいっぱいいますよ。
動物園に狼はいないのか？なら怖くないかもしれんな。
Oh, she's really scared of wolves.
狼がいたとしても動物はみんな檻に入ってますから安全です。
That will hit her, won't it?
だから安心して見学できるんですよ。
The mighty witch of the forest was apparently terrified of wolves. Remember, it looked pretty funny to me at the time. Beatrice.
それはわらわとどう違うのか。
Exactly. She's just an animal in a zoo. She didn't know about zoos. I explained how fun zoos could be. But it was very difficult for a person like her, who had never visited one, to understand. On the contrary, as I explained it to her, her expression grew increasingly dismal. She couldn't see the difference. Apparently, even though she lived in an elegant mansion that was surrounded by a high fence and seemed to lack for nothing, she couldn't see how she was any different from animals shut up in cages. I mean, she's not that wrong. I mean, if you look at zoos, like, what is the paradise for an animal? An animal doesn't need a big house, it doesn't need fancy clothes. An animal needs safety from being eaten, and enough food and water, and maybe support if it gets hurt or something. And a zoo pretty much gives the animal everything in that regard. Like, it couldn't have a more relaxing life. But, obviously, and that's a big issue with zoos, it also completely takes away its freedom. Like, it can't go anywhere at once, it can't experience the outside world, and it won't meet anything new. And it's, at least from what we've seen, one-to-one the same situation as for Beatrice.
わらわは何者なのか。皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。それは確かにそなたの言うように
偉大な魔女の名前らしい。しかしそれはわらわではないのだ。わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。わらわはその魔女の魂をこの身に封じられているだけなのだ。
That fits pretty well so far. There was definitely something odd about her, beyond just being cut off from the world. It seemed she truly believes that magic exists. I think she talked about lots of weird things, but I don't remember the details. All I thought was that this might be a person to be pitied. She was unable to leave this mansion of her own free will, a prisoner without even realizing it. And she didn't know anything about the outside world, didn't even understand who she was. She probably vaguely realized that she was to be pitied. But since she didn't know anything, she seemed incapable of recognizing her own unhappiness. You can't miss what you don't have. Long ago, when I told Nesa that I felt sorry for a bird in a cage, she said this. A bird that only knows about the inside of the cage doesn't long for the inside. Yes, exactly. But this wasn't a bird. She really was a person. Even if she had never been outside the cage, she understood that there was more to the world. So, I invited her.
柵の外へ出てみますか？
本当に狼はいないのか？
いないですよ。絶対平気ですから。
No.
出たいぞ。だが、いつも門は閉まっている。
We know a secret exit.
私が入ってきたところがあります。くぐり抜けられる隙間があるんです。
そこを抜ければ外の世界があるのか？
はい。
狼は本当にいない？
No, there are no wolves.
はい、いませんよ。
I had only planned on inviting her to go on a short walk, but she kept looking over her shoulder at the mansion as though she was seriously worrying over the decision. Then I learned what she was preparing herself for.
わらわはもうここは嫌だ。外へ出たい。そしてわらわが何者でこの世界はどうなっていて、わらわは何のために生まれてきたのかを
Understandable.
知りたい。
I didn't know what her life had been like before then. It was probably something she couldn't express easily. If it was harsh, she just had to say she wanted to escape. If it was sweet, she just had to say she would stay. For example, maybe it was like how a hot fireplace on a winter day makes the air get thicker and thicker, giving you a headache. Even though you know you shouldn't keep things the way they are, you still need courage to open the window and be tormented by the cold wind. She was starting to realize that she couldn't stay here forever. She was starting to realize that she had to go outside someday. But, since she didn't know about the outside world, she must have needed courage to take that unspeakable first step outside. She's so pouty again. And despite that, she had made her decision. She had voiced her decision to go outside, a decision she was probably making for the first time in her life. I hesitated for a moment. Father had decided that she would live here. She was like Father's beloved bird in a cage. If I just let her escape, Father might scold me harshly.
見たい。え？何を？
She wants to see everything. I constantly forget that I don't have a cap on this thing.
動物園が
Oh!
見たいのだ。
Oh. But there are no zoos on this island. Maybe we need to take her off somehow. Oh, look! She has this little mini teeth that you oftentimes see with what's it called? Cheeky characters, you know, the young ones. I think like Felt in ReZero. I think even in Higurashi didn't Satoko have such a teeth? I was just a little surprised when she finally gave me a gentle smile. Could that have been a farsightedness brought about by her decision to venture out from her cage? What a smile, so gentle. I couldn't imagine that it had come from that once dark face.
そなたと話すと知らないことばかり出てくる。わらわは学校なるものもわからぬし、動物園も知らぬ。
But she seemed quite knowledgeable, at least now, so maybe she had a private tutor that told her stuff?
映画館も知らぬ。遊園地も知らぬ。そしてそれを知りたいと心の底から思う。そなたはわらわをそこへ連れて行ってくれるのか？
I was nervous about how it could keep it a secret from father, but her face looked so happy, so I went along with her and nodded. But she seemed not to notice the meaning behind my vague smile. Okay, like, it's quite obvious what all of this is from Beatrice's perspective. So, I am quite curious how much this would impact Rosa actually at this point. Like, all her life she had been put down and been told that she is, or maybe not just been told, just experienced that she's less, that she's worse than everyone else. And has always been looked down upon and tries to be better, tries to be more like everyone else. And now she actually finds someone that is relying on her and is just wants, how to say it, like she wants to know things from Rosa. She wants to learn from her. That must be a really great experience for her. So, as we already hinted at, well, hint is the wrong word, already spelled out, this will end horribly for Rosa. She seemed to believe that I would really take her to all those places. She was pure and genuine. She had probably never been tricked by anyone. No, maybe it's better to say that she had never learned how to doubt. Her smile was somehow radiant and yet pathetic. I wanted to find a way to grant her modest wish.
わらわはもうベアトリーチェは嫌だ。わらわが何者なのか、ベアトリーチェではない新しい人間を始めたい。
And who do you want to be?
だからここから連れ出してほしい。もう紅茶もいらぬ、ドレスもいらぬ、金蔵とも二度と会わぬ。
That's also all very interesting because we see the witch Beatrice that is torturing us right now is wearing this dress. She is looking like that. She is drinking tea. She's still doing those things that she was doing while being trapped in the cage. But in episode 2, the Berto we meet there was not wearing a dress anymore. She had this very I don't know how to, that a very different outfit, a more sleek, kind of more masculine. I don't know how to express it. Like it wasn't masculine. She had also a skirt and stuff, but it wasn't like the typical princess outfit, but more like a horseback rider. I don't know, something like that. So maybe she actually did change when going outside. I already voiced a theory that the Beatrice in the dress and the Beatrice without are two different people in a way. And I wonder how far this actually goes. Like, if the Beatrice we have right now is the one that is still stuck here, left behind, and the Beatrice we met in episode 2 is the one who ventured out into the world.
ここよりわらわを連れ出してくれ、ローザ。
However, that responsibility was one that a child like me couldn't hope to fully bear. Still, when I saw her serious gaze, along with that brilliant smile that made it look as though a possessing spirit had left her, I could feel a little courage start to rise up inside me. This was definitely something that would get me into a lot of trouble, and yet it was definitely the right thing to do. I don't know how it will turn out, but I'll take her away from here. Of course, I won't be able to talk to father, and not mother either. Should I talk to Unisama or Nesama? No. What about the reliable Genji-sama? A son. Or, that's right, what about Kumasawa-san, to whom I can always talk when I'm in trouble? I'm sure they'll be able to do something. would be interesting to hear how Kumasawa actually comes into the story a bit more, because she's very sidelined so far. Like, she didn't have much involvement in anything. She's just been on the sidelines and watching and doing nothing. Anyway, for now, I'll take her out of here. This was already a place she didn't want to be. So, I took her to the crack in the fence and let her outside. She was all nervous, checking to make sure there were no wolves around. But once that fear disappeared, even just walking around this dense forest seemed to be fun somehow. Every time she found something, she would ask me about it. And they were all really trivial things. Something even Rosa can answer. What's that flower? What's that leaf? And that sound? And that smell? It really was like the inside of that fence had been her entire world. It was. So now that she had traveled beyond the limits of her world, it's strange. When I first saw her, I really thought she was the witch herself, relaxing inside the witch's mansion. But now, it was different. Or actually, the complete opposite. She had left a world she had believed to be finite, and was overjoyed at the realization that the world was endless. Endless, you say? Something she had never thought of before. So, everything she saw was new. It was almost as though she was the one who had been thrown into a fairy tale. I had been thinking about Alice as well, but I thought it wasn't similar enough to mention it. If she was Alice, then I felt almost like a rabbit holding a watch. To her, it was probably a really fun walk, filled to the brim with excitement. But I was actually at a loss at what to do. After all, I walked randomly to get here. Of course, I didn't know the way back to our mansion. There were no lights in the forest, and I hadn't brought a flashlight. I realized it would be terrible if it got dark while we were still like this, and grew impatient. She was too innocent, and apparently she couldn't understand at all how frightening it would be to face a night inside the forest. But I was the one who brought her outside. I had to take responsibility somehow and resolve the situation. So I had a thought. Let's go out to the ocean for now. Yeah, that would be the smartest way. If we then follow the beach around, we should eventually make it back to the mansion. However, that was much more of a problem than I had imagined. I didn't have a map or a compass. There was no way I could walk in a straight line through an uncultivated forest, and immediately lost my sense of direction. I had already no clue which trail I had come by, and was completely lost. At this rate, night would definitely fall before I had a clue where to walk. But this was no more time to cry. After all, that woman following behind me was so innocent and having so much fun. So I definitely had to lead the way through this forest. Exactly. She's found her mission. She's found something that she's in charge of. For the sake of her smile as well. Gritting my teeth so that she didn't see me looking troubled. I pushed my way through the woods, advancing down a path that wasn't a path. There it is! Then, after going through various troubles, I fortunately managed to reach the ocean. At that time, I still didn't even have a clue where I was on the island. But for the time being, I was just a little reassured, realizing that if I just went around this way, I would surely be able to return to the mansion. However, though I had reached the ocean, we were at the top of a rock cliff. The beach was far below us. I was tired from walking around the forest for so long, so I figured that an open area, even a rocky beach, would probably be much easier to walk in. So, I suggested that we go down that rocky cliff somehow. It looked pretty dangerous, but I figured there was no other way. However, Beatrice agreed to my plan without any doubts. I mean, how would she? She doesn't even know how hard this could be. She hadn't had anything like this in her entire life. Even though she was probably older than me, she meekly obeyed, almost as though she was some kind of chick who thought I was her mother. Yeah. I searched to see if there was some part of the cliff I would be able to get down. Then I found a place where the cliff had fallen over and made a slope. It looked a little dangerous, but if I went down using both hands and both legs, like I was crawling, I thought it would probably be okay.
ここを降りましょう。気をつけないと危ないけど。 とにかく海岸に降りて、あとは沿って歩けばもう迷わずに済むと思うの。
うん。ローザがそうするのならそうしようぞ。わらわは迷うとやらも楽しいぞ。とても愉快だ。
So it might be a bit more difficult for her in her dress, right? She really had no sense of danger. There was probably no doubt that she had lived a life without discomfort. Even though she knew it would get dark when night fell, she couldn't imagine how dangerous the inside of a forest could be without a light. Furthermore, it seemed that she couldn't grasp at all how dangerous it might be if she fell from the cliff. I warned her repeatedly to be careful. I cautiously examined our potential route down. It seemed to be quite a long drop. I think it might have been about 10 meters down. Still doable. If you looked at it from the bottom up, it would probably have looked shorter than the roof of the mansion. But looking from the top, it felt almost like staring down from the observation room on Tokyo Tower. I understand, I hate heights as well. But Beatrice still appeared to be completely without fear. It felt as though she had never even been taught that high places were dangerous. No, maybe she believed that she was a witch, and that she could fly, so there wasn't any need to worry.
気をつけてくださいね。
Yeah, please
結構高いから。
Yeah.
うん。気をつけるぞ。下へ降りたら海があるな。そこに水族館があるのか。
Not quite. A very big one, so to speak.
いえ、この島には水族館はないですよ。でも、海にはたくさんの魚がいると思います。
そうか。
Oh, do you hear the seagulls cry?
魚はいるのか。そなたが話してくれた、クジラとかイルカとかペンギンとかはいるのか。
Whales maybe, but the rest no.
そういうのは水族館に行かないといないです。水族館は島を出ないとないですよ。
そうなのか。だが楽しみだ。クジラとはどんな魚なのか。
They're really big.
すっごく大きな魚で。
Oh yeah.
あれ？哺乳類かな。それで潮を吹いたりします。
ならばイルカは？
頭のいい魚で。あれ？これも哺乳類だっけ？
Yes, they are. And penguins aren't fish either, they're birds.
とても頭が良くて芸とかを覚えられるんですよ。
And they like to get high on pufferfish.
ならばペンギンはどうなのか。
あれ、これは鳥類だっけ？
なんだ、水族館なのにさっきから魚が出てこんぞ。
Yeah.
まあその魚だけでなくいろいろな海の生き物がいっぱいいるんですよ。
Exactly.
それはとても楽しみだ。
Hmm? Don't fall. She let out what might have been a funny, rushed and short cry. No, it was probably a scream. It came right out of the blue. Her body separated from the cliff and silently fell. I immediately wanted to say something to her. I wanted to say, didn't I tell you to be more careful? It was a sort of a child. It was how a child immediately gets mad when something bad happens, trying to find an excuse to show it wasn't their fault. Of course, I said it out loud. Are you okay? Didn't I warn you over and over? Oh, please don't. She's fine. She's fine.
それで崖から落ちてどうなったんだ。
彼女はどうしたんだ、ローザ。
Rosa fell silent. Her gaze dropped to her feet as though she was seeing through the floor into some disgusting memory.
死んだのね。
Ava's brutal words were the ones Rosa had most wanted to avoid. And when she was hit with them, she screamed in resignation.
死んだわ。 岩浜だったもの。尖った危険な岩がたくさんむき出しになっていた。目を見開いたまますごい血が溢れ出して、たちまち真っ赤な絨毯を広げていった。声をかけたわ、揺さぶったわ。でも彼女は返事はおろか、瞬きすらも。私が悪いのよ。
That is horrible. Although I have a hard time believing she actually died and not just like she obviously was hurt a lot. Like definitely, but maybe she just lost conscience at that moment.
彼女はドレス姿だったのよ。あんな動きにくい格好なのを知っていたのに、私が壁木を降りようなんて言ってしまったから。彼女はすごい素直だったから、私の言うことに何の疑いもせずに従って。
And because she did what you said, she died. So you killed her.
いつまで死んでいるつもりか。いい加減に目を覚ませ。まったく、わらわの預かり知れぬところで勝手に肉塊に姿を変えようって。
おめえのとこの太もも姉ちゃんとイチャついてただけだぜ。
Okay, so he was murdered by Lucifer.
それより、これはどういうことだ？
うん、見たままよ。わらわは足を踏み外して転落し、死んだ。
Yeah.
なんだと？19人目として登場しておきながら死んだだと？ふざけるな、そんなわけはない。ローザおばさんは子供だったし焦ってた。医者がいたわけでもない。多分、
Yeah.
死んだと誤解しただけで、お前は多分仮死状態か何かで生きていたんだ。
Yeah, I mean, probably not that, but maybe just unconscious.
そうだろ。
It can't be true. She's got to be alive. Otherwise, how can she be here? The kid-aged Aunt Rosa shook Beatrice's body, crying. I stared into that face too. But her eyes were still open and it really was a corpse. I wanted to dodge the issue by saying something vague, like she must be playing dead. But no matter how I looked at it, it didn't look fake at all. It really did look like she was dead. Beatrice had fallen upside down from a cliff of that height, and her head was smashed against the pointed tips of those sharp rocks. Yeah, you would probably die after landing on those rocks from that height. But how? How does any of this fit in? But I couldn't accept it. No matter how dead she looked, she had to be alive. Then she went on to become this damn irritating witch. It makes all the inconsistencies fit. Grandfather must have kept her confined constantly in a hidden mansion. Then, to take revenge for that, she committed several atrocious murders. And Rosa probably just mistakenly thought she was dead. But she was actually alive, and as soon as Rosa left, she would miraculously breathe again. Then, she somehow lived on until today and opened the curtain on her revenge drama. Otherwise, the facts don't fit together.
そう簡単には騙されねえぞ。赤で復唱できるか？確かに死んだと。
That's what I'm afraid of.
どうせ生きてるんだろ？見え見えだぜ。
それのどこが生きているように見えるというのか。間違いなく死んでいる。
Say it more clearly. My theory that the 19th person was grandfather's mistress, a human Beatrice, had been defeated. I had planned to strike back from a defensive position, but...
なら、お前は何者だってんだ?
Yeah, and who appeared during the second episode?
お前はたった今、死んだんだろうが。まさか魔法で蘇ったとか言い出すんじゃねえだろうな。
Exactly that. The soul was freed from the body.
すでに説明したと思うがな。そこに倒れているわらわは確かに魂はわらわだが、その体はわらわをうつしおへつなぎ止めておく肉の檻にそしてその肉の檻がこうして壊れた。
それがどういうことかわかるか？
もうさっぱりだぜ。好きなだけ魔女っ子トークに興じろよ。チャカの代わりに聞いてやら。なんだ、空っぽか。
Yeah, you gave the last cookie away.
紅茶のおかわりを頼むぜ。
ロノエ、客人が紅茶をお望みだ。
Hi. When Beato clapped her hands, Ronoe appeared. Butlers are sure are convenient. Well, you are close to being a butler. You are a butler.
おかわりですね。
Yes,
かし
please.
こまりました。どの程度お継ぎしましょうか。
どうせチャカがボリューム満点だろうからよ。半分でいいぜ。
それでもなみなみとお入れするのが英国式でございますよ。
Even though just enough to wet my throat would have been fine, he filled it to the top. I turned my back to Beato, sipping it in silence. What actually happened now?
ちょっと目を覚ましてよ、ベアトリーチェ。
Rosa shook me. No, shook the corpse that had once been me. I watched over her from a short distance away. So I fell from there and died. For a while I believed that was true. I saw Rosa spend a long time beside my corpse, then watched her as she ran away. Eventually, I realized that I was different, a different individual from that corpse.
わらわか。ようやく金蔵の戒めから逃れられたのか。
Eventually, I felt that the memory returning. The fact that I was an endless witch who had lived for 1,000 years. Then I remembered that I had been summoned by Kinzo, that I had been imprisoned by him for a long time. While being imprisoned in a cage of flesh, I completely lost my memory as a witch. However, thanks to Rosa, if you could say that, thanks to my accidental death, I had now finally regained myself.
ローザ、そなたはわらわを死なせてしまったと後悔しているだろうが、わらわにとっては感謝したいくらいよ。
Is that maybe why she mentions the contract at the end of episode 2? I'm not sure now. I mean, it wasn't an official contract right now, but... I couldn't see Rosa anymore. Did she go to call a doctor, or was she so terrified that she ran away? It no longer matters. That soulless shell no longer has any value. And yet, I am so frail now. Even this glorious midday sun is agony to me. I destroyed my human form, then I changed into several gold butterflies. Yes, with my magical power as frail as it is now, this form is easier to maintain. To escape even a little from the light of the sun, I rode the wind and gently flew up the side of the cliff. It would probably be a bit cooler in the forest. Anyway, I'll take some time to recuperate and regain my former power. As I ponder how to make Kinzo pay up all he owes me. Dancing alone through the air, I looked down at the shore one more time. On the rocky shore lay the figure of what had once been me. The figure I would eventually regain. To regain the form of that physical body I had thrown away. It would probably take more than 100, 200 days. And it might require 1,000 days or perhaps even more. However, I am the Endless Witch. The Golden Witch who has lived for 1,000 years. Waiting any countable number of days would be no problem. Oh, Kinzo. Regret that you are not here now. No longer will you be able to capture me. She died. But it's dead. It's definitely dead.
それで、お前は黄金の蝶に姿を変え、森の中に潜んで魔力が回復するのを待った。
Yeah, I'm lost. Yeah. Oh,
そういうことだ。
and poor Rosa, like her entire self-confidence, everything she now just built up is completely destroyed and even trampled even more because she now has to see herself how incompetent she is. I have no clue what happened with Beatrice, so I don't even speculate on that. The only idea is that she isn't actually dead, but it's definitely dead. I don't know.
そなたを嘲笑するためにこの姿を取るが、本来は蝶たちの姿でいた方が魔力的には楽なのだ。
無理しねえで楽な格好で嫌がれよ。ムカつく笑い声を聞かずに済むぜ。
蝶に姿を変え、森に紛れたわらわを探し出すことなど、もはや金だが。金蔵も指を加えているわけではなかった。しかしわらわを捕らえる方法はすぐに用意はできぬ。そのため、まずはわらわをこの島から逃さぬ方法。そして、わらわが力を取り戻すことがないよう、即座にやれやれ。とにかく金蔵の執念深いことと言ったら、想像を絶する。
Yeah.
あれに惚れられるのも、なかなかに辛いものだぞ。
That is a random thought that has nothing to do with this right now, but it's quite interesting that we saw child Ava, but not child Rosa just now. So I assume it's probably more content of Ava as a child than Rosa. She's rejoicing now.
蝶になったお前を逃がさない方法？なんだよ。森全体に蚊帳でも張ったってのか？
うん。それを魔法的に行ったのだ。
Obviously.
そなたは知っておるか？船着き場の先の洋上に岩礁が浮かび、そこに小さな東洋魔術の祠があることを。
Ah, that one.
ああ、あれか。
The one that Shannon destroyed.
今年はなくなってたけどな。
Yeah.
昔、修験者が作ってったとかいう祠なんだろ？
ロッケン島は元来、歪みのある島でございます。魔力的な存在や、それに類した存在を引きつけます。お嬢様も、そんなうちのお一人でございましょうね。紅茶のおかわりはいかがですか？
いただこうぞ。それらは人間たちに害をなし、おそらく数々の不気味なる伝承を残してきたであろう。それを聞きつけた東洋魔術師が古代に設けたのがあの祠なのだ。
Yeah, we had to love that.
長い時間を経て、その力は失われておった。金蔵はそれを修復することで、島の結界を蘇らせ、わらわを再び島に縛り付けたのだ。
I see.
西洋魔女のお前に、東洋の魔法なんて通じるのかよ。
A profound question.
本来は相性が悪い。しかしわらわを封じたいという目的においては、ある意味都合が良かっただろうな。わらわも、西洋魔術であれば、心得がある。どのような結界であっても、何かの手が打てたであろう。
But because it was Eastern, she didn't know anything about it.
東洋魔術は専門外よ。
Makes sense in magic terms. Oh look, she has this little tooth here as well. Though it's more pronounced in this sprite of hers. Funny.
わらわが飲まんとするスープに対し、スプーンではなく箸を与えられたようなものだ。
東洋魔術が強く支配する空間では、西洋魔術はひどく力を失います。
Okay, so it's
ただで
affinity.
さえ、1000日はかけたであろう力を取り戻す時間を、さらにさらに、長くかけねばならなかったのです。
それで、約20年かけて魔力を取り戻し、 今こうして蘇ったって言いたいのか？
Roughly?
辛く長い年月であった。わらわは黄金の蝶の姿のまま長く日々を送り、どのように仕返しをしてやろうか、それを思案することだけを日々の楽しみに生きてきた。
Okay, so if he for some reason assumed it's the girl who's down there and for some reason didn't die, or at least in some logic is considered dead but somehow also kind of alive, then we would from there probably assume that she must have been saved by someone, right? 1 second. She was saved by someone because she was definitely in the need of medical attention after that. And afterwards continued to hide in the forest, probably supported and fed by that person who found her and watching the mansion. Could be Nanjo.
わらわにとって幸運だったのは、その間の20年間、金蔵はわらわを探し出し、捕らえるあらゆる秘術にことごとく失敗した点だったか。人間に起こせる奇跡の数などたかが知れている。わらわをあれだけ長く捕らえていただけでも十分に身に過ぎた奇跡だ。そう何度も捕らえられてはたまらぬわ。
じいさまが前のゲームだかで言ってたな。魔法は確率的奇跡に宿る。
Yeah.
みたいなことをよ。
うん。
I mean, that's also the same logic behind Burn Castle and Lambda Delta, right? Like, what was it? Burn Castle can increase the lowest bit of probability to become certainty, and Lambda Delta can decrease the probability of anything to next to zero.
金蔵はわらわを再び捕らえる秘術を探るうちにそこに行き着いたのだ。そして13人の生贄を捧げることでわらわを再び蘇らせる儀式をついに編み出したのだ。
13人の生贄。
Yeah, but why?
それが魔女の碑文、
Yeah.
生贄の歌でございます。第1の番に6人、第2の番に2人、そして第4の番から第8の番にかけて5人、合計13人の生贄を捧げる禁じられた儀式。その生贄はランダムに決められ、儀式を執り行う金蔵自身も例外にはなりません。
バカ野郎。この島で起こったあの凄惨な殺人が全部おかしな儀式だっていうのかよ。
I thought it was quite clear actually. Did you actually never consider this idea? Okay, I did have a vague idea that this might be the case, but I couldn't just hear that it was true from a witch and a demon and say, oh really? And accept it.
ロッケン島には18人いる。13人が生贄に捧げられ、5人だけが生き残る。
Yeah.
そしてわらわは蘇る。つまり、金蔵がわらわに再び会える確率は、だいたい3分の1といったところか。
Roughly.
その確率に自らの命を落とし、残りわずかな寿命の最後の一瞬に、わらわとの再会を望んだのだ。
そのふざけた儀式のために俺たち親族が集められたってのかよ。
Yes.
ふざけやがって。いい加減なことを抜かすんじゃねえ。
もとより契約の通りだ。
It was all set out in our contract from the beginning. Yeah.
金蔵の生を終えるとき、貸し与えた黄金と、そして金蔵が生み出した財産のすべてを、わらわがもらい受けることになっておる。
Well, that's quite different though. You started collecting it before Kinzo even died, right?
金蔵には散々煮え湯を飲まされたが、今となってはこの1000年でも稀な時間だった。何しろ魔女の天敵は退屈よ。 それから逃れることのできる数十年間を提供した金蔵には、なるほど、それも含めて借りがあるやもしれぬ。わらわは金蔵のゲームに乗ることにした。そしてまず、金蔵は後ろ宮家当主の指輪をわらわに返却する。
Yeah, we saw that.
わらわの黄金で復興させた家だからな。
True.
そして13人の生贄を気まぐれに決めるのだ。
Yes.
そしてその過程でお前たちが右往左往し、わらわに立ち向かおうと様々な人間模様を見せてくれることは、わらわにとって非常に愉快なことだ。わらわはこの金蔵のゲームを実に気に入っている。
A cruel, endless game of murder and deceit.
ああ
Ui. In a way, a perfect revenge against Kinzo, though he doesn't suffer through losing a family at all because he doesn't give a shit about his family.
そんな魔法話は絶対信じねえぞ。
That text I did not see. Ah.
じゃあお前は誰なんだ。お前は崖から転落して死んだんだろうが。魂が抜け出して蝶になって森へ。そんなのあるわけねえだろうが。だがお前はここにいる。誰だってんだ。お前こそが19人目じゃねえのかよ。
そうであるな。わらわこそが19人目であろうな。
The witch. Yeah.
だがダメだぜ。
Don't use his own language against him.
全然ダメだ。
Oh.
この六軒島に19人以上の人間は存在しない。
Once again, important distinction. There are no more than 18 humans on this Rokkenjima. "18 people on this Rokkenjima." Uh, 18 humans. Okay. Two things that I find to be of interest here. First of all, this Rokkenjima, which could imply that on other parallel world Rokkenjimas, like in previous games, there might be more than 18 humans, which could include the previous Beatrice that supposedly didn't die. Secondly, 18 humans. How does she define human again? Does she define furniture as human? Because if not, we would have a lot of people on this island that are not accounted for. Like Kanon, Shannon, Genji. I don't think Kumasawa or Goda. So I think at least these three, like Genji, Shannon, and Kanon, are not considered humans in the classical sense that they are furniture, right? So if they aren't human, doesn't that mean that there are 3 more people on this island? At least that might be an explanation that could work with her definition of what a human is. But on the other hand, it could just mean that she considers them human and there are only 18 people here. But now we've created this situation where we could actually argue against it. But still, I kind of still believe it because I think that one of the 18 will be the bear to killer, so the human who did all the killings, if we ignore the magic version. So this actually just led me nowhere.
なんだってってことは18人プラス X の X は存在しないってのかよ。俺が取ったコマ X は存在しないってのかよ。
そういうことになります。実にご愁傷様ですよ。しかしお嬢様は手がお早いですな。 もう少し泳がせて最後にひっくり返すものとばかり思っておりました。
I expected so as well.
さてバトラ様、紅茶のおかわりはもう結構ですか？
いらねえよ、チキショウ。俺は信じないぞ。18人の中に犯人がいるわけねえ。じゃあお前は何なんだよ。どうしてここにいるんだよ。19人目が存在しないってんなら、お前は18人の誰かの変装だって言うのかよ。
そなたにとってしぶしぶとではあっても、18人の誰かを疑うことが最後の逃げ道、キャスリングとなるであろうな。
Yep.
しかしわらわはここからが難しいのだ。そなたはなりふりさえ捨てれば、18人もの人間を自在に犯人に仕立て上げられる。
Yep.
その18人の駒をくぐり抜け、わらわを認めさせチェックメイトに至るのは実に難しいことよ。
そんなことするもんか。
Yeah, but what do we do about these 18 people?
18人の誰も疑わない。疑いたくない。またここに追い込まれちまったのか。
I don't see how we can do this without suspecting the 18 though. Like, you need to look the truth in the eye, Battler. There has to be someone who's looking at her.
チクショウ、チクショ
三度に及んだそなたとのゲームもいよいよ終盤戦のようではないか。
The end? We haven't even started.
もう逃げ場はないぞ。お前の大好きな18人を疑いたくないだろう。わらわがそれをかぶってやるぞ。なのになぜわらわを拒むのか。序盤は本のように、中盤は魔術師のように、そして終盤は機械のようにさせとな。
Yeah?
これより詰めるぞ。ゆっくりじっくり確実にな。
That's the time of sacrifices
い
begin.
や、それともそなたにふさわしく一気に畳みかけるのが良いのか。
Let's see.
そなたにはそれが似合うだろう。そうしよう。すでにそなたの苦手とする攻め方も知り抜いておるわ。
So, I would assume she will from now on make it look like, will leave open the possibility at least of someone of the 18 doing it, so that he has to suspect them, because otherwise he would have to suspect Beatrice. Yeah, this is not looking good, Butler. We're actually nearing a checkmate. Oh, hi. What? You look very different, Jessica. Yeah. We ring the bell again. That happens once more. You also look way more mature, Shannon. Same old, same old. We didn't see Maria, did we? I'm not sure if you hear it in the video, but the clock is tolling. What are you all talking about? There's Goda. Where's Kumasawa, by the way? We didn't see her yet, did we? Who are you, Berto? This episode told us so much if we just believe in magic, and so little if we don't. Yay! Now we can begin. And a completely screwed up Umineko symbol. And a clock that's... Well, at least the clock looks better now. It's not as small as before anymore. It's time for murder happy time. Well, or at least it will be next time. Hello! This is a little abrupt in between, but as I said in the episode just now, we are ending the entire thing now. In actuality, I continue to play for at least another hour or so, with the first Twilight going on. But after editing the whole thing, I realized that it just doesn't fit quite well together, and I think it's nicer to have each episode cover a specific topic. So this episode will end here with the first Twilight to start and be about. This episode is going to be about the whole Rosa Beatrice backstory, and then next episode will be the entire first Twilight, as well as me making some kind of predictions as to how this first Twilight will affect the future of episode 3 and what kind of story threads we could spin out of that. Yeah, so for now, this will be the end, and then next episode we will just technically begin right where I'm just continuing, so don't wonder if I'm not doing a proper greeting and just I'm talking as if I'm continuing the last recording, because that's literally what I'm doing. See ya.